Good evening. How are you guys tonight? All zero of you. Are there any Edomites in the chat? Can you go ahead and identify yourself, please? The whole idea is so ridiculous. Of race, I mean, at least as it applies and is perceived by people these days from pretty much all sides, or at least the majority of perspectives. White pride, you're an American. I don't know why I was thinking of that song earlier. Maybe it had to do with the thumbnail, I'm not sure. People latch onto the most ridiculous things as Copenhagen. It's pretty ridiculous. And the really pathetic thing is if they've got so many people to give over their DNA to find out how much 56 face they have, or face, I should say. How much percentage of face, or lack thereof, or wherever. Especially stupid and totally totally dumb. I mean, like, it completely doesn't make sense why someone that is into racial purity would submit a DNA test, other than just the fear of not being 100 whatever, 97.8% Bavarian, pure Bavarian phenotype. Oh, too bad. You found 3% Romanian. In the effort to find out how white people are, they gave away their DNA to to further the genetic profile of whatever the people that started those companies are looking for. Really, like what they're really looking for. And it's not to provide a service to connect people to their family history. I mean, maybe there's a few like tiny like nonprofit organizations that might be their honest intention, but every corporate interest is definitely not out to connect people's family histories. I always kind of got the feeling that like one of the things that some of the people behind the scenes might have been looking for is the DNA profile of the Mashiach or certain other friends or enemies. By friends, I don't mean like observant Jews. I mean like shape shifting creatures. I don't know if I don't think it's possible to. I mean, not that I would know, but it doesn't seem like it would be possible to find any of those things with DNA. Or I mean, if they found a valid DNA profile of someone from the line of David, they could identify, know, they could identify descendants, but the, that's like probably so many people, and the Mashiach's not like a DNA profile. It's the man that once the world has the merit and and uh, and he has the merit, or maybe it shifts. I'm not sure. Maybe it's like a, a an array of people that it could be at a variety of times. And if the world has the merit, then one is selected. But once that has occurred, he gets a new piece of his soul. That's what it is to be anointed, or at least in that regard, as far as I understand it, anyway. Over the last couple of days, I watched one of Rabbi Yaron Rubin's lectures on the Iker Hagra, the a letter from the Gaon for Vilna, the Vilna Gaon, to his family when he was like on a trip away from his family, and it's pretty amazing. Every like 2 or 3 hour lecture that the Rav gives, he reads like maybe 1 or 2 sentences tops, and the entire lecture is filled with like expounding on the words contained in just a handful of words, or the couple line or two from the letter. One of the things he was talking about was how people have a Mashiach obsession. A lot of people do. It's not good to have a person can have an area of focus in their studies, but a person always needs to have a broad scope where they learn about everything that applies to them, and not just one narrow focus of, of study or obsession. And the whole point of learning about the Mashiach is to give people hope, and to scare the crap out of them, to wake up and do teshuvah. Because there's no guarantees that if he showed up right now, or was anointed and made his presence known in the world, that anyone would be left on the last 1,000 years of this world would be a pretty peaceful place, because no one would be here other than him. Well, that would kind of defeat the point. So the whole point is to try as hard as you can, and to burn it into your mind and your heart and your soul that we're all so far away from where we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And a person should never feel like they've arrived at their destination while they're still breathing. Never take a never take a breather, or it's taught that a person should never think that they're righteous, but they should also never think that they're wicked. I mean, there's certain obvious things where, like, when a person learns that certain things are wicked acts and horrible sins, and even a lot of things most people do are abominations. What's called the toava, like just absolutely disgusting filth, like the most disgusting thing a person could ever imagine. That's what most people do with their pride and their immodesty and wasting seed and their ungratefulness. So when a person learns about those things, and they take it into their heart, and they know that they do or used to do those things. It's as they're in the process of doing teshuva, it's pretty difficult to not acknowledge that at the time they do those things that they're a wicked person. But hopefully that transition is short, and hopefully a person doesn't beat themselves up too many or too harshly when they fall down. A person has to do it in the moment and feel bad, go through the process to acknowledge it, to stop, to feel disgusted and ashamed, and beg for forgiveness, and then do their best to make a plan to not have it happen again, and then force feed themselves and their soul some good things to try to push all the evil out, and give them the strength to get back on their feet and keep running. Baboker, baboker. Because if a person constantly thinks of themselves as a wicked person, they're going to have a really hard time keeping any kind of hope alive, or or optimism, or have a reason, in their own mind to keep doing anything good, because the Yetzer Hara will take that feeling and just turn it up to 11 to convince that person to just give up, because there's absolutely no hope for them, which is a complete lie. And a person also shouldn't think of themselves as righteous, because that is also a trap by the Satan. Because even if a person is righteous, if they've completely refined themselves and they're the absolute, you know, definition of a Sadiq, the it's so easy once those thoughts enter a person's mind to think they can stop learning or stop being quite as devoted, or so easy for arrogance to creep in, and pride, and looking unfavorably on other people. A person has to look unfavorably to a certain degree on a lot of people, just to stay away from them, and remind themselves that they don't want to go back to living like that. But they also have to realize that that is the truth. If they don't keep all these thoughts in their mind, it will go right back into the gutter. Or if they weren't there, if they were observant or righteous from birth, and they've never been in the gutter, they can easily end up there. A person can lose it all in just a fraction of a moment. How could you not be terrified of that? But good fear, good fear that comes from a place of holiness, comes to motivate a person to act. If it petrifies you, then it's not from a good place. And a person has to do whatever they can to identify why why they feel like that, and try to stop it, or stop the source from coming in, and then build a defense by getting more holiness, you know, primarily learning more Torah, and doing whatever mitzvot a person's either obligated or can do. The Goyim don't have too many positive mitzvot, at least not that are clearly enumerated and easy to find. Mostly it's just don't. Don't be an idol worshiper. Don't blaspheme God's name, or also under that is like swearing oaths, swearing swearing oaths that you shouldn't. especially using his name, or even like a some kind of generic placeholder in whatever language, like God. That's that's interesting. Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi said when he was talking about the holiness of the four-letter name in Hebrew in the Lashon Kodesh. He said he asked, "Does the word God have? You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to like deface or erase or destroy anything with any of the holy names for the Creator of everything once they've been written. They're if a book has to be like becomes unusable or has to be destroyed or thrown away or whatever, all the names are cut out, or the book in its entirety is basically anything with the name. I forget how many of the names are. There's a bunch of quite a few names. Everything has to be handled like the burial of a dead person, a dead Jew, where it's like treated very carefully with respect and wrapped and then sewn up and then buried. But he asked if the person has to do the same thing with like the representations of God in another language, like in English. And I think he said he wasn't sure, but he said it's interesting the Tetragrammaton and God both have a gematria of 26. Things like that make a person wonder, like, was that a so-called coincidence that whoever chose those letters was unaware of? That was really, a fingerprint of put there by God to show people, or was it a conscious act made by someone who was aware of the significance of gematria and the power of the holy language? There's one thing about Hebrew that is impossible 100% to replicate with any other language. It's the totality of the letters and the words. Because like I learned from Rabbi Elon Anabah, the letters have three characteristics. They have a shape that is visible to the eye and how they're written. They have a sound when they're pronounced from, by a human with their lungs, their throat, their tongue, and their teeth and their lips as the air moves across, you know, parts of the mouth. And they have a numerical value. no other language can, it's hard for any other language to even do one of those things, let alone all three of them. Like not even Aramaic that I'm aware of can can do that because the pronunciation is slightly different. So it may have the uh, the shape may be there, and the gematria may be there, but the sound isn't quite right. Well, that's probably the closest of any other language could get. Anything else, and that's basically just the numerical value, the gematria. Certain languages do have little bits and pieces of Hebrew in them. Like you can hear it in some, like one or two sounds in German and Spanish, and a couple of the other European languages. Like a thin thread that runs through time and place, that leaves like a trail, like an echo of people before they forgot who they were, as they spread out across the world. How are you doing tonight? If you can't or don't feel like answering, that's fine. I hope you're doing well. Sometimes it's so easy for me to see certain things. And sometimes I feel like a sense of disgusting pride because I can see the see certain things that blind people can't. Well, most of the time, I just feel a great sense of gratitude and and humility because I know that this thing that I perceive uh, when it first started happening is like just the most amazing, fantastical insights and clarity. It's such a microscopic sliver of anything of what is really out there, even for what is possible for a person to see. and and everything. Like Doug talked about the piles of plastic garbage and the trash islands floating in the middle of the ocean. Or when a person like starts to look for a while, they can start to see more than one purpose behind a lot of things. Like there's a and one of the basic rules for creation is the duality and polarity. Everything has a positive and a negative. And so every single thing in this world can be used for good or for evil. To as a way to purify or pollute or to enslave or to set free. I learned a good word watching the last Eager Hagral lecture. Let's see if I can find it again. It's in Shemot 32, Exodus. I lost my place because I started reading. Yeah, it's in 32:16. The tablets were God's work, and the writing was God's writing, incised upon the tablets. This is not, well, it's English, so it's not a good rendering. So, but a more accurate, but less not accurate word for is inscribed upon the tablets. But I think Rashi's commentary will say something like, "Don't read it. It's like it's inscribed, but it's like in the stone." I think it was sapphire, like six. I think there were 6 amot tall, just massive, massive, gigantic sapphire tablets, and the inscriptions, like, or the words that were, so to say, carved in, were like cut all the way through, but still almost like they weren't like there was nothing on the face, like it was just cut out from the inside with no like something only God could do, especially back then. They didn't have like fancy multi-headed laser plasma fusion cutters or whatever they have now. But oh, I'm reading the wrong thing. That is a good one though. The word I was looking for is from Mishle 22 Proverbs. It's see if I can find it. Starts with a het. Maybe I'm not gonna be able to find it. I seem to be lost. I can't remember. Oh, okay. Now I can't. I can't remember. Chofesh or Herut. Okay, it is Shemot 32. That's one thing I learned a while back is for some reason most of the time a person's initial inclination about a thing is usually the correct one, at least with something that they're somewhat aware of, or you know, not all the time, though. Definitely not all the time. The the word incised or like inscribed or carved when it's talking about the tablets is het resh vav taf, and it's the nikud is like the vowelization is uh, har, uh, harut, like like an aw sound. But there's a commentary that says don't read it like that. Read it like harut, and it's one of the words for freedom in the holy language, and it kind of reinforces this idea that I've heard a couple rabbis back up that that there is no real, there's no freedom like people think. There's a person can be free to do whatever they want. Like how most people think about what freedom is, like the Eric Cartman version of freedom. And that is Chofesh Het Het Fe Shin, I believe. But Herut is Herut is the freedom of of being bound to God. When the Jews were taken out of Egypt, they were freed from slavery, from bondage, from Mitzrayim, from the constriction and limitation of physicality and their own desires that they were literally enslaved by. Like if a person reads the Torah, especially with some commentary about the process of what happened to the Jews when they were in Egypt, they were within a few generations they were like expanded a vast amount. Like they came there with like 70 people, and then all of a sudden there were like hundreds of thousands and then millions, and they amassed massive, great amounts of wealth and owned tons of property and businesses and livestock and land and then they got swindled by their wealth and their comfort in their new land, and they wanted to prove how American, I mean how Egyptian they were. So they became patriotic, and then slowly the efforts to show how patriotic they were turned into their chains. And eventually, Perot started murdering all their kids. I mean, he literally would murder a bunch of them every morning and every night so he could bathe in their blood. And that is slavery. It never starts out that way. It always starts out as just a nicer car or another house or a vacation in Cabo or some new shoes. And the neighbor gets the same thing or a nicer thing, and then everyone looks at everyone else, and everyone gets jealous and greedy, and everyone hates each other, and they all speak evil, and everyone does nothing but go after money, and then they all slowly stop doing God's will and forget where everything really comes from, and then they start murdering each other, and then other people murder them. And then things have to get really bad. But it's for the best. Because if there wasn't some kind of correction, people would just totally destroy themselves. At least most people. But there's a lot of times where the righteous are punished with the wicked. There's a couple reasons for that. When when the Bet Hamikdash was destroyed, the Gemara says that the God was just going to allow the Malakamovit to kill all and punish all the wicked people. But he said, what about all the righteous? And I said, isn't it? Aren't they supposed to fulfill the whole of the Torah? And not like he didn't know, but he said, he said they do, kind of trying to be their defense attorney. And the Malakamovit said they do fulfill most of the Torah, except for one law. They don't rebuke their brothers. They don't rebuke their fellow. So how could the I forgot one part. He said God said they yeah, but the wicked people surely wouldn't listen, even if they did rebuke. And the Malakamovit said, you know that, but they don't know that. And so they should have rebuked them anyway, because they didn't. No one, no man knows unless he's already tried. And as far as I'm aware, the halakha on rebuke is at least the rebuke that a person is allowed to do. Not everyone is allowed to rebuke another person, and it's supposed to be your fellow, which that should be obvious what that means. But it's said a person is obligated to rebuke their fellow until they either do teshuva or they're driven to anger and blows, like a physical violence, or or like on the verge. And so since they didn't the tzaddikim didn't rebuke their fellow, the judgment or the the words of the Malakamovit were judged as the truth, which is the seal of God, the emet. So it doesn't matter how harsh or unfair it seems. If it is the truth, it must stand. And so all the tzaddikim were slaughtered first. I would I would really like it if. Good evening, Joshua Taft. I'm doing well. How are you? Not sure how long ago you left that comment. I was looking at the Safari website for the reference for the Ex's quote or verse, and then I shut the phone off for a while. I was gonna say I really hope that or it would be really nice if people could put forth a little more effort so the world didn't have to go through any more of these cycles. At the very least, for so his kids didn't. I know the only way that the most of the nations aren't going to get backhanded and crushed and vaporized as if a whole lot of Jews observe the whole of the Torah and bring a whole lot of light to the nations, like a seriously blinding light, so that they cannot see anything but the truth. It's amazing to me how a person can, you know, for the few for the few secular or atheist or those that you know those that went off the derrick, off the path, how they could look in the Tanakh, even in the Torah, how they could look at so many of the passages and not see that they've done exactly what was said in there, and not be just absolutely, you know, for one, terrified, but just people just don't know enough. Just knowing, just a plain reading of the Tanakh and knowing some history should be clear as day for anyone with any shred of wisdom or intelligence. But it's absolutely You know, it's the truth. So you better do what it says. But of course, there's all kinds of little confusing tidbits in there, just to give people the excuse to fulfill their own desires. And to ignore it, ignore the truth, and to do nothing but feed their doubts about what is real, and and turn over the whole of their, not the whole, but turn over a large portion of their existence to the Satan. One thing about the evil inclination is it is far more clever than any man. Or I shouldn't say any man, but like almost any man. And like I think I mentioned last stream, the a person's evil inclination when they're been doing wrong for so long, that's very weak because a person has been trained so well that they've come to enjoy and and actually been given the assistance to do all their sins. That's one thing that a person really needs to take to heart is a person is given or their path is cleared for whatever they wish to do. If they wish to commit sins, they will be they'll be shown a road straight into Gehenna with almost no speed bumps or roadblocks. There will always be, or not always, but many times, most people get lots of lots and lots of second chances and wake up calls just to see if they're ready to come back and stop being an idiot. And the same is true of the inverse and the contrast. If a person wishes to try to be righteous and to fulfill God's will, they will be given the opportunity. And it's not just like a never-ending path. It's kind of like a chain that can be broken at any time, and each link is built upon the next. Where if a person does a mitzvah or a good deed, that is God's will. Like if they say a blessing, or they don't speak when it's their inclination is to talk gossip or put someone else down, or say something disparaging. If they do that good act, then the opportunity to do another good act is presented. And if a person keeps grabbing those links and connecting them in a chain, it keeps going on and on. And the longer the chain gets, the stronger the links are as it goes. And each the value of each link in the chain gets greater and greater. And the same goes with sins. A person starts out with something small like lying or stealing a piece of candy. And then all of a sudden they're cursing with the mouth that they should be using to praise God's name and say blessings. And then they're wasting seed and verbally slaughtering people with gossip and lashon hara and committing adultery and all kinds of other horrible things. But either of those chains can be broken at any time, or they can go in the other direction. And once they're broken, they can also be started again. But one thing about the chain of sins and evil is it's much easier to build. It's much harder to stop, and it's much easier to start again once it's broken. The chain of mitzvot is always a lot easier to break and a lot easier to start again once it's broken, or a lot harder to start again once it's broken. So a person has to be very vigilant. As a person grows their chain of good deeds and fulfilling God's will, a lot of the time the Yetzer Hara knows that they can't get the person to commit a big sin. So they'll hit their weak points wherever they still struggle with sins, whether it's immodesty or pride or saying stupid things when they should really just shut their mouth, or at the very least think long and hard before they open it about what the words that come out. And then when a person really starts to elevate themselves, they know that the Yetzirah knows that there's no chance to get the person to sin. So what it comes to do is it's like one of those kids from I'm not sure if kids still have. I guess kids still have some kind of trading cards, but it's like a kid that wants to trade baseball cards or whatever other kind of stupid cards people collect. It'll try to trade your super valuable card for some 3-cent common card that's like worth next to nothing that they've got like a stack of 1,000 of. I'll try to get the person to put off doing something great like saving souls in order to like feed a poor person or give a person a ride or helping a lady across the street or they're all really great things, but they're really nowhere near as important as saving people's eternities, especially if it's multiple people they have a chance to save, or the other good deed is just one small act of a single person. But it's also very hard to tell, more like impossible. Because there are certain situations where a person just has no concept of the weight of their one small tiny act. Like one good deed, or one moment where they say a kind word, or just treat a person with decency is the one thing that keeps them in this world. And who knows what that person may go on to do. But since a person doesn't know, they have to use their intellect and make a calculation on the likelihood that the small good deed that they're going to do is going to save a person's life, that is going to go on to birth the Mashiach, or or whatever uh, highly improbable or unlikely occurrence that may be possible for the much likelier prospect of speaking to a group of people to convince them to stop being criminals and hopefully eventually save their souls. Let's see an example that Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi gave when he was going from one lecture to the next. And the guy that was giving him a ride wanted to give some guy that was stranded at the shul a ride home, and he lived in the totally opposite direction, and they would have missed the lecture by giving this guy a ride home because they would have got stuck in traffic, and I think it would have been like 2 hours late, and there was like 50 or 100 people at this other lecture waiting for him, and a bunch of them were basically secular or atheist. And if he wouldn't have made the decision to leave the guy there and go to the lecture, they all would have left and continued being desecrating Shabbat and committing who knows how many other countless sins. What's really amazing is to think about the acts, like I was talking about the fruit that is born out of a person's acts. It's definitely not even the same universe for a goy speaking to other goyim. But for a Jew that convinces another Jew to keep mitzvot and to take on the whole of the Torah as such a massive merit, because there's a very high likelihood that they will get married to another observant person with fear of heaven. And they'll have children, and they'll raise them as his kids, to be observant, and then they will have kids. And so just getting one or two people to return to him can become, 4 or 5 within 10 or 15 years, and then 25 or 30, it's 20 or 50, 100 years, it's like a couple thousand, 10,000, all from one or two people. And the fruits of that one act keep keep bearing out forever until the final Shabbat comes and the redemption happens. And it can all be traced back to one person, not just that one guy, that I was talking about that convinced the one or two people. It goes all the way back thousands of years. And the further it goes back, the wider the family tree gets. And the more fruit it bears. It's getting late. I should try to get some sleep. With a great deal of his help, may we all have the merit to help one person, or maybe two. Return to him and fulfill all the laws that they're obligated to, and to raise children that will do the same. May his name be blessed.